Rob and I wanted to interview Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. We're very aware of his healthy lifestyle, and Rob and I both live a healthy plant-based lifestyle, and we wanted to talk further about his achievements, how he reversed diabetes.
Eric, we thank you so much for taking the time and the opportunity to spend a little time out of your day to go ahead with this interview. And I've been watching some information, some YouTube videos on your work, and I think it's just amazing on what you're doing to help in this whole journey, in this whole plant-based movement. So congratulations on the work you've done so far, and it's just a great opportunity to be able to speak with you.
But I wanted to bring you on because a lot of our viewers are transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle, and I've admired your work. And we met last year at the Veg Fest, and I enjoyed your lecture a lot. And I wanted you to maybe tell our viewers about your situation with diabetes and how you got your mom to recover as well. I just think it's an amazing, inspirational story. So, if you don't mind, tell us what led to your diagnosis and a little bit about what it was like before.
No, thank you so much, and it's great seeing you again. And I want to adjust my eyes so I'm looking at the right place. Should I be looking here or should I be looking here at your
No,
screen?
where you, yeah, the first, yeah, perfect, right
Okay,
there.
good. Good. 'Cause I don't want people to think I'm some type of weirdo always
Right.
looking at.
No,
You
that's
know?
perfect the way it is now.
We are in a fascinating place as human beings where those things I believe that are normal we consider to be extraordinary. When in fact, this journey that I went on is not a very complicated journey, and it's just that we have moved so far from the normal lives that we should be living that it seems like in a wow moment, and it's not a wow moment. It's a moment that I really want to demystify, and so that people don't think, oh, you know what, there's something special about Eric, and it's not. It's what I was able to accomplish, lies in all of us. And I think I like to think about when I was in China and looking at some of the Buddhist temples and how people were treating Buddha. And then you look at Buddha writings. Buddha was saying, "Listen, Buddha is in everyone's. Don't bow down to me. You are Buddha." And so my life, as reversing my diabetes, I don't want people to feel as though they're, wow, this guy is amazing. No, I am not amazing. I am an ordinary human being that just decided to open my eyes. And that journey of opening my eyes happened in 2013. I was out of the country when I was experiencing some discomfort in my stomach. I thought it was colon cancer, actually, because I lost a friend to colon cancer. And then when I decided and made the decision to, when I come back to the country, I was going to go to the doctor. And everyone knows that men, you have to drag us to the doctor. We just
Exactly.
believe, just suck it up, handle it. But it was getting pretty bad. I had serious vision loss in my left eye. I basically lost my sight in my left eye, and I was having vision damage, loss in my right eye as well at a slower pace. And so by the time I went to the doctor, I had the stomach discomfort what brought me there and the vision loss, and I was receiving numbness in my hands and feet that I later learned that it was connected to the overall issues that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And which is very fascinating that by the time you receive physical symptoms, you are traditionally in the latter stages of whatever issue you are dealing with. Your body holds on to it, but once it starts to manifest itself outside the body, you're really in a later stage. And that is what I found out after I came out of sedation from the colonoscopy and the endoscopy. I learned that my colon was fine. I had an ulcer, but I was really dealing with some really late stages of diabetes. I was
Wow.
told that my A1C was extremely high in the high teens. I had high blood pressure, cholesterol issues. My PSA was pretty high as well, which are early signs of having prostate issues that can lead to prostate cancer. And so I was going through some serious medical issues, and I looked fine, but it was time to take an internal selfie. And the doctors told me that I was going to have to go on three medications. They were giving me a medication for my ulcer, several medications for the ulcer, several medications for the diabetes, metformin, and another two as well as insulin, medication for the cholesterol, medication for my high blood pressure. And so I was just walking out of the doctor's office where I could have been, you didn't. I was no longer Eric. I was Mr. Dwayne Reed.
Yeah.
I was getting so many drugs and prescriptions, to take,
Yeah.
and and I went to five other doctors in the city, some of the best doctors in the city, and they gave me the same diagnosis that there was nothing I could do. I would be on medicine the rest of my life, and that was really what shook me. That I hated the thought that I was going to be like the people I knew, that I was going to be taking pills and injections for the rest of my life. That
That's
was
why
so.
your story has a profound effect on me because you and I have that in common that the doctor prescribed a med for me and I didn't want to be on meds for the rest of my life. So I just want to interject in that
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
I
but you're
totally can
right.
relate.
That was just, it just hit me to the core that you mean to tell me every morning I'm going to wake up and stick myself in my stomach and I'm going to have to make sure I took these, bottles of pill. I just said, you know what? No. And it led me to do research. I was able to do research and come up with people who have now turned to be very dear friends, Dr. Greger, Dr. Esselton, Dr. Barnard, and others, and learned that there was a way to turn it around. When I went down to see Dr. Essie in Ohio, he told me what I needed to do, and I returned to the city on a mission. And I was very concerned about not becoming just overzealous, just to burn out. And that's what happens sometimes when you think about doing a diet. I put myself in the mindset that this is going to be a lifestyle change,
Yep.
and that's what I was, able to accomplish. And in 3 weeks after changing my diet, my vision returned. And in
Amazing.
3 months, and the only reason I say 3 months is because that's when I went back to the doctor. But there was clearly a change even prior to 3 months. Months, my nerve damage went away. My cholesterol turned around. My PSA went to a 1.1. My blood pressure normalized. The My A1C reversed from the high teens down to a 5.7,
Wow.
and it was just a complete reversal. I dropped 35 pounds without trying, and it just happened so quickly. That's what was really amazing.
What did your doctor say at your 3 month appointment?
It was fascinating because when I walked into the doctor's office and he took my blood A1C, my blood reading, my glucose level. He pricked my finger and he tested it and he saw the number. He was like, "Wow, the medicine was actually operating." And I just gave him the full bottle of the medicine. I said, "I never took the medicine."
I love that. Wow.
I
That's
said
great.
I decided to go to a whole food plant based diet. He says, "Oh, he says that's some type of drug, whole food. What is that, a vitamin?" So he
I
had no
love that.
idea what I was talking about. And then I went to my endocrinologist, which was very fascinating. I gave her the book by Dr. Greger, How Not to Die,
Yeah.
and she called me late that evening, and she says, "I never knew this stuff." And she said, "I'm going to give this to my mother and my family, and we're going to really start looking at the food we're eating." And
Nice. Nice.
just, you know,
Yeah, those books, well, especially Dr. Greger's book, that changed my life as well.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
And
they're all good, but yeah.
It is the power of giving people the information. Now,
Yes.
I believe that patients fall into three categories. One, they're just going to, they're just not going to do it, and it's going to take them a long time to turn around. It's that patient, type two type patient, who really wants to do better, but they're getting misleading information. They're being told the only answer is medication or drugs, and they're not being supported.
Right.
And then you have the folks like me, what I like to call the type three people, where we just give us what we need and we're going to carry it through. But we need to give a greater level of support for those who want to do better, and there are no real support systems in allowing them to do so. And
Yeah.
that is where the focus really needs to be.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Um, and how long after you recovered did your mom jump on the bandwagon as well?
Yes,
How long did it take
it
her?
it took mother watched me for about 2 years, and she was reading a lot of things and hearing different testimonials from other people. And mom called me one day and she says, I really want to try this. I want to turn my life around. She was taking 9 medications at the time, and insulin, and she was just tired of it. And I was tired of seeing her going through these various conditions from years and years of not only from the abuse of the food she was eating, but really the side effects from the medicine that she was taking. And I like to even reverse that and say it's not side effects, it's direct effect.
Yeah.
Medicine is going to do harmful things to you. Your body is just not meant to be forced into doing things, because then it's going to impact you later. And so mom was taking medicine to keep her sugar down, medicine to get it up, medicine
Yeah.
to deal with the kidney damage that it was causing, medicine to bring her blood pressure down, medicine to keep it up. It was just, she had
Yeah.
so many pills that she no longer knew why she was taking the pills. And
Right.
so she said, Eric, I would like to try. And 2 months after going whole food plant based, they took her off her insulin. After being on insulin for 7 years and 50 years of type 2 diabetic, she was able to get off in 2 months. That's
That,
unbelievable
I
when you
love that
think of
story. Yeah.
it.
It really is
And so
unbelievable. It shows you that humans can heal if they eat the right foods.
Dr. Greger says it best, that the body attempts to heal every day, and we damage it 3 times a day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if we just give it an opportunity to heal, it will heal. And
Exactly.
that is the direction we need to go in.
And I'd also like to ask you about I love how you transformed the public schools and eliminated the processed foods. Did you run into a lot of problems or issues with others? I imagine there was some opposition from people until they get used to it. But,
Yes,
was it
the,
difficult to
the, the,
pass?
the meat and dairy industry, they have done an amazing job of defining health. And it's amazing, their definition of health is unhealthy. But they've done a great public relation campaign to make you feel manly by the most amount of meat you consume, by giving athletes wearing white mustache to say, milk does your body good, by really targeting people. And their methods is really out of the playbook of the cigarette industry.
Yeah.
Although they knew that it was doing damage, they were promoting it as a healthy, showing doctors smoke a pack of cigarettes or athletes smoking a pack of cigarettes. That's what we're doing now. So when we engage in this battle to turn around the food in our public school system, we received so much pushback because parents felt as though how is my child going to get his or her protein?
Hmm.
What are you doing to our family? This is the only meal my child is receiving. You're not going to give them the nourishment. And so we had to go through a process of really uneducating people, that you have to unlearn what you learned so you can learn properly. Now, what we found fascinating is the energy that came from the children. The children, they were ready to eat healthy meals, and that helped us a lot. And so
Yeah,
we started out as Meatless Mondays, and then we were able to use our advocacy to get the city to move towards not purchasing processed meat in the city, and that's an amazing
it
accomplishment
is. It really
to
is.
have processed meat, and to have a 50% beef reduction in purchasing. Eventually, we believe we're going to move towards not purchasing beef at all. We're getting our hospitals involved to do meatless Mondays, where we want to get our correctional facilities involved,
Good. Yeah.
our ACS, child protective services involved. So all the places where we feed people, we want to make sure that we're not feeding the crisis in the process.
Right. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I really do. Rob, I wanted to give you a chance to ask a question as well. I have a few more. But,
Well, hey, Eric, it's just great to be able to talk with you and to spend a few minutes to take the time to talk to us. It's just great. You mentioned that this is something else you're kind of that's in the plans, Eric. What is the next plan for you in this what I call whole food plant-based movement? What you kind of touched on that. You would like to see this happen throughout the hospitals and stuff, but maybe you could just elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, we're looking at the how do we prove the science in a real way in a clinical setting. So we have a great program taking place at Bellevue Hospital. Bellevue Hospital is the oldest hospital in America, and it is a very prominent hospital. It is the hospital when the President of the United States visits New York. That is where they set up the triage. That's where they set up if any emergency takes place. Is Bellevue Hospital. We're using Bellevue Hospital as the backdrop for a program we're doing with lifestyle medicine. First of its kind here in the city. The implication will be major for healthcare. We have over 200 people who are currently enrolled. There's 600 people on the waiting list. And we're showing how lifestyle changes can reverse diseases, prevent people from taking medicine, or downloading the amount of medicine, lowering the dosage of the amount of medicine that people are consuming. This is an amazing initiative that we're hoping sometime in late October we will release our preliminary findings and really start the conversation. We're excited that we believe funding has been put in place to continue this initiative even after the October date, and it's just really moving us in a direction where we're going to have conversation about wellness and not merely just treating symptoms
yes.
to disease.
That, that reminds me of another question I had about food labeling and the pyramid and how they want to. I heard President Trump is trying to not have scientific research for the next you know nutrition guide, and I wonder if you had any insight in that, and how we could have more science involved in our food pyramid.
Well, if you ever seen Trump with his jacket off, you realize he needs to go plant based and
Exactly.
eat a
Yes.
you
Couldn't
know,
agree more.
to walk around and brag about the number of hamburgers he consumes and how healthy he is. Just like his tax returns, I'm sure he's not going to release his medical report because
Right.
it'll defy that logic. When we look at his cholesterol and his blood pressure, it's clear that he's not eating a healthy diet. And he really buys into the whole theory that nothing is wrong with eating as much beef as possible. So it's a challenge
Yeah.
when you have the wrong agencies that are in charge of deciding our food pyramid. As you know, I went to Washington
Right.
D.C.
Yeah, I wanted to
to
ask you about that. Yes.
and just to share that we have to really start looking at the food we're feeding our children. And those guidelines are important because as we engage in conversations here in the city, they point to the guidelines as to say, well, the guidelines say they're all right.
Yeah.
If the guideline board is saying it's all right, here's the food chart, then it really gets in the way with what we're trying to do in our local municipalities.
Right. I agree. So how do you go about changing that in the climate that it is, in Washington? Is there do you think that dairy will come off the list eventually, or do we have to wait for a new administration, or how do we go about fighting that? I guess.
I think local governments must get involved because if local governments get involved, their level of productivity, uh, the health issue in local governments, it is not only an issue that impacts the anatomy of a person, but it impacts the body of economics in our city. Healthy People is an economic stimulus package. It allows you to not miss lost days in your place of employment. It doesn't overburden your healthcare system, particularly around emergency rooms and doctor visits. The amount of money that we're spending on reactionary healthcare is not sustainable. We cannot argue that cases of diabetes are increasing. Diabetes is the number one cause of non-trauma limb amputation, one of the leading causes of blindness, leading causes of kidney failure. And so we can't continue to go down this path. And it's imperative that local government sends a loud message to Washington, D.C., and to change their policies on
Mm,
what they're doing every day to make sure they have a more proactive approach of dealing with chronic diseases.
right. So I'm sure you agree that in order to reform insurance, we have to change the attitude about nutrition. It starts at the plate. And,
Yes, without a doubt. And the way it is now, we don't believe there's a disconnect between what's on our fork and what is causing us to go to the doctors. And it doesn't mean we're going to live forever. That is not part of the agreement of life. Life comes with a level of mortality that's understandable,
right.
but it's about not only longevity, but it's about quality.
Exactly.
Living to be 90, but you can't identify your grandchild because Alzheimer's has been, your brain has eroded because of the meat consumption, clogging
Hmm.
your arteries in your brain. That's not a healthy lifestyle. Walking
Exactly.
around with a respirator because of having cancer in your lungs or your colon has really been clogged to the extent that cancerous growth is taking place or losing a limb. That's not living.
Right.
Living is enjoying the quality of life, and food related diseases, they're taking away the quality that should be associated with the term life.
For sure. For sure. Rob, do you have another question?
And
Well,
I'm
I just
time checking right now. Just if we are able to do just one more, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, I'll leave it with Rob then, since I asked so many.
Mhm.
well, I just had a comment for both you guys as Dr. Joel Furman kindly puts it. These processed foods, and I think it's a very interesting subject and area of study. These processed foods and the micronutrients that we don't consume in standard diet here in the Western world not only affect our organs like our hearts and our kidneys and our lungs and our vessels, but it affects our brain. And there's this whole area of study on how those biological effects, you might say, occur in relation to our brain chemistry and how the impact of violence plays a role as well. So I thought maybe you could just touch on that quickly, Eric.
Yes, and I'm still looking into the research and the studies that will really outline how what we eat deal, particularly with the violence and behavior. We're doing so much around dealing with vicarious trauma and PTSD and how one's deal with some of the everyday stress. I find, just personally, how food has allowed me to deal with the level of stress that's associated with my job. And we see that children who are on a healthy diet have a better behavioral experience in school. Some of our schools that are now all vegan or all vegetarian, they're seeing a better attendance level. They're seeing better discipline in the schools. And so we want to continue to go down that route and explore those areas. But there's something that's often detached from this conversation. As we talk about saving our mothers, we fail to realize that a whole food plant-based diet also saves Mother Earth. The one mother gave birth to us, another mother sustains us, and we shouldn't be poisoning neither one of them. And right now, the overconsumption of beef and meat in this society, chicken and other food products, is really leading to the destruction of our planet. We're seeing the fires in the Amazon. It's associated with burning land so that we can continue to have cattle feed. The greenhouse gases from animals waste is causing one of the greatest challenges we're having in our environment. And so we have to start connecting those dots. Not only do we look at a better vehicles and better clean fossil fuel or stop burning fossil fuel, we have to look at one of the largest problems we're having in our environment. And you often don't talk about it. It's often ignored, and people think it's too big of a boulder to push up the hill. But we have to push that boulder up the hill, and the more people that are involved, that boulder become lighter and lighter, and we will get it to the top of the hill, and it must be part of the conversation.
I completely agree. Um, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to do
Thank
this
you.
interview with us. Like I said, I was really inspired by your story. And it parallels mine in so many ways that, yeah, it just felt like I had to interview you. I think my audience would enjoy it.
We're kindred spirits. You know what? We almost look like each other.
Right. Right.
Hey, thank you for all the work you
Thank you.
do, Eric. We
Thank
we
you.
we
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
we
All
both
right.
appreciate it.
Take care.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.